Hey everybody, and welcome to Foundations Day 17. Today we're learning two new poses. We are learning your first warrior, Warrior 1, Virabhadrasana 1, and we are also going to learn pyramid pose, by the way. Alright, so I don't have any props, but I will be telling you how to incorporate a couple of blocks if you want to use them. So if you do want blocks, if you use them, for example, in half splits, then you might want them here as well. Go ahead and pause the video, get your props ready, and we will meet up on the mat. All right, so Warrior 1, very exciting, your first warrior pose. I'm also really excited to teach you this pose because it was for years, no longer, but it was for years one of my least favorite poses because I really didn't understand how to get into it in a way that was comfortable in my body. So we're all really different in the hips especially, and I've always had issues with my hips feeling uncomfortable in poses, and this is definitely one of those. So hopefully today, even if you've tried this pose before and are like, can we just skip that one? Maybe you'll be able to find a place that suits you today. That is my hope. All right, so Warrior 1, we're just gonna start at the top of the mat. We're not gonna warm up to get into this. We're just gonna move straight into it. So I'm gonna start by stepping my right foot back, like so. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see the detail, too much detail in the video, my toes are angling outwards. And my back toes are angling outwards on my right foot. My front toes are pointing directly forward. Now, I'm going to make adjustments for here. I'm not going to pretend like I can perfectly step back into the most wonderful version of Warrior 1 that my body has ever known. I'm going to continue to make adjustments. So I'm going to heel toe my left foot, my front foot, out to the edge of my mat. And I'm gonna step my foot a little bit back. You're working towards this front thigh becoming parallel, but if it's not there, there's no need to worry. So this is a forward-facing pose, and here's where you're gonna make adjustments to suit your own body. Often we are in poses, I'll say we're on railroad tracks here, so we're not trying to be on a balance beam, we're on railroad tracks. For this, you might need to widen your railroad tracks here. So this back foot, don't have it too far behind you because you want the hips to start rotating towards pointing directly in front of you. You might, especially if you feel any pinching in the low back, in the sacrum area, right below your low back, you're going to want to widen your stance. So move that foot out and adjust where your toes are pointing until you find a place that's comfortable for you. So the hip points are pointing forward. They don't have to be exactly parallel. They can be pointing a little bit that way. That's going to be okay. But we want to create this action of rotating the upper body forward so that the hip points are moving towards the top of the mat. So I'm really feeling some opening right here. And you might feel other things in different places in your body, but for me, I especially feel openness in this right hip right here. Good. So you might stay here, just stabilizing. I'm going to widen my stance just a little bit more. Or you could start to lift the arms up overhead, biceps by ears, shoulders melting down away from the ears. The tops of the shoulders melt down away from the ears. And traditionally, you might bring your fingertips to touch. You can even lift your gaze if that feels comfortable in your neck. I'm going to keep looking straight forward. And this is Warrior 1. So I'm going to bring my hands down so I can just talk to you like this. So you'll learn to make these little adjustments in your body and find what fits you. All right, I'm going to straighten the front leg and I'm going to adjust my stance once again. So I'm going to heel toe that front leg in and step this foot in a little closer. So I'm not on a balance beam here, but my feet are much closer in together. I'm going to move into pyramid pose. And both legs are straight. Good. So hip points are pointing forward. This is where if you have blocks, you might put them down on either side of your front foot. Otherwise, we're going to work our way into a forward fold. So you know how it goes. You hinge from the hips, spine is nice and long, and you fold. So you might not fold all the way. You might stop here, you might put your hands on blocks, or you might start to fold all the way down. At a certain point, your spine is just gonna gracefully round over as you reach its limit, and that's okay, as long as you have initiated this movement from the hips. So this is pyramid pose. It's very intense. It's like a more intense standing version of half splits. Good. Now don't hold your breath in this pose. Keep breathing. Relax the neck. Good. Now we're going to come back up the way we went down. Let's bend the knee a little bit to strengthen the leg as we come back up out of the pose. And I'm going to turn to face the side of my mat and turn to face the back of my mat. And repeat these poses on the other side. So first, warrior one, I'm going to widen my stance, adjust my feet. So for my warrior one, just so you have an example of how far apart my feet are, the edge of my front foot here, my right foot, is right at the edge of my mat. And back here, my toes are pointing in this direction here, and they're right at the edge of the opposite side of my mat. So I have a very wide stance here. My hips are rotating so that my hip points right here are pointing forward like headlights. And I'm working my way into having this thigh parallel, really opening up in the front of this left hip. Warrior one, lift your hands if you're ready, if you feel stable. Good. To be honest, I really love warrior one now. Virabhadrasana. Virabhadrasana is warrior pose one. Virabhadrasana 1. So exciting to learn your first warrior. We'll be adding more. Breathe into this pose as you find your place of strength and ease, finding that balance. Good, and let's move into pyramid pose. So straighten the front leg, adjust your stance, strengthen the legs here, and hinge from the hips as you fold over the front leg. Hands coming to rest on blocks, or maybe by your feet. Okay, so one thing I hope I mentioned before, I'm not completely sure I did, is that my back foot, the toes are still kind of pointing out at an angle, which is why I think this is a nice transition from warrior one to pyramid pose. It's because you can point both feet forward, but for a lot of us, it just feels more comfortable to have the toes pointing out at an angle there. I practice it both ways. Keep breathing. If you're practicing this on your own and you're working your way into some of that flexibility in the front leg, you can always inhale and lift and exhale and fold and just flow like that. Inhale, lift, and exhale, fold as you work your way down into the pose. That can be a really nice thing to incorporate into your home practice. All right, so we're going to use the strength of our legs to move up out of this pose. So bend that front knee a little bit and come on up, back to center. And that is it. That is warrior one, Virabhadrasana 1, and pyramid pose. We will see you next time for day 18 of foundations. Until then, namaste. The light in me sees the light in you.